why the resignation happened. Wow. So I was about to highlight how do we convert. Knight g5 would have allowed g takes f6, and he played f7 before I could even think about it. And we have a tied match. We have liftoff, if you speak comeback. And, you know, Robert, you were talking about the storyline earlier, right? There are two ways to look at it. There was the, hey, you know, even though you're down by 4, Wesley, you've been better in a lot of games, right? That was what you were saying. Or there was the Hikaru, which is like, look, dude, you haven't played your best chess yet you're up a couple games, so, you know, stick with it and you'll be fine. Both of those still hold true. And, you know, there's a reason our prediction probably said that we would have a very close match heading into Bullet. But right now, the momentum definitely favors So when you've come back from a 4-game deficit to tie things.
Yeah, I think that's why, you know, just box score, and you know how I am about the sports and analytics and all that, but I think it's misleading. And that's why I always ask people, I'm like, how did you play? I don't say, how did you do? Because if you say, oh, I won my game, that doesn't tell me anything about the quality of said game. And right now for Hikaru, he's not been playing badly, but I do think of the two players, Wesley has played slightly better throughout the match, but Wesley's had some really egregious blunders. And Hikaru lately has been swinging the other way. Hikaru has been blundering in positions we typically don't see him make such mistakes. So this position is another example where, I mean, it's just at the opening, and I like Black's position, just knight e5, rook c8. Seems very straightforward. So,
sorry about that, taking a sip when I should have been picking up the end of your sentence there. But, yeah, no, I don't disagree. I think that the scoreboard says it all in the end. We do have a tied match, but I would say overall it does seem like So has found himself now after making some critical blunders in the 5-minute portion, and it's for Hikaru to kind of stop the bleeding. Whoa. Bishop takes c3 played. We saw Wesley lean back there.
Honestly, I like it. As someone who plays or grew up playing the Gingy Indian from the black side, where you take on c3 very early, White has these double isolated c-pawns. And honestly, most of the time you don't want to take on c3 too soon because that gives that bishop on c1 some life. The bishop on c1 is terrible, and now on d2 is awful. Eventually, White will play e4 and try to get an attack going on the king side, but it often feels very slow. For instance, bishop takes d5 followed by knight e4 was possible just a move ago. Instead, he's probably going to try to bring his knight over to a4, attack these c-pawns.
Well, I like how you said it's a Nimzo-ish type position, right? Because the move bishop takes c3. The reason I was kind of surprised because Wesley kind of leaned back head in hand and almost looked like he was frustrated. But I agree, bishop takes and the immediate kind of execution of these pawns, and they may indeed be executed here pretty soon because they're not going anywhere. It's a positional tragedy. Black is not going to take here and let White undouble the pawns. Or if he does, it'll be because he's winning at least the c-pawn with it. So very tough position for White here.
Yeah, we should also talk about the theme of knight against bishop, because if you can imagine these light square bishops being traded off, that knight on c5 can take over the light squares while the bishop on d2 is helpless because it's a dark square piece. So that's just inherent. And I mean, look what Black is doing here. Queen to c2.
No, I just said that I was going to say, speaking of the light squares, this is crazy good now for Black. Threatening to bring the queen in. d3 is a weakness. MV Chessmaster in the Chess TV chat says So's nickname should be 3-1 So. He is good in 3-1, and he was down 2 games heading into this middle portion of the Speed Chess Championship final. But now the match is tied. So yeah, no, this is what we've said. This is his moneymaker here in the 3-1 portion.
H5 was a really weird move to me, if I'm being honest, because it seems like it makes Black's king a lot less safe. But perhaps Wesley just calculated this out. He went king f7, so his rook could go to h8 if the queen tried to.
I guess he said queen h6 is not a threat. I agree. h5 seems weird, but you can't just put the queen right to h7, which you'd love to do.
Honestly, a pretty impressive move by Wesley, because I would never make that move myself. But now that it's been played and I'm looking at the position, you gain more space on the king side, and if your king is not vulnerable, then it's just a good move. Ooh, knight d3 is coming, isn't it?
Bishop takes d5 is played, so you can get the move knight d3. These pawns are just going to fall. And Hikaru has got to go to the drawing board here and figure out some way to get it spicy again. Maybe go back to some more obscure openings. This is kind of a main line, but not working out well because Wesley So, after waiting almost 70 minutes before he got his first win in this match, might be about to take his first lead here in the 3-1 portion.
Yeah, and there's a tactic here that he went rook e3, but if he had gone rook e2 instead, I believe that there was a queen. I don't know if
he's going to do queen takes e2.
No, he's going to go queen takes c3, and after rook d1, play knight takes f4 because there's a fork on e2.
In the back cave, we shallst show the line. If rook to e2, queen takes c3, and rook to d1, looks like it wins a pin knight, but knight takes f4, and then knight takes e2 is a fork. That's more like a trident there. Pretty good stuff. Now Wesley up 2 pawns, although queen h7 is going to win 1 back with rook takes e7, I think. No, he doesn't go for it. Hikaru keeps the pressure. Now, this is where Hikaru is going to try to maybe show a little bit of bullet skill unless Wesley takes the draw. Getting in the time scramble and see if he can swindle Wesley with few seconds on the clock.
And Wesley taking his time right now thinking, hey, I'm up a couple pawns. Can I play on here?
Right.
And how would you play on? You'd make space for your king with an e5 or an f5. Of course, playing e5 makes your 7th rank vulnerable.
Yep.
So what?
Oh,
there he
goes for it, but here comes queen c8 or queen b8. With less than 20 seconds in this game, that is a gutsy move against Hikaru Nakamura, and I think Hikaru is happy.
It. Queen c6. Your king is safe now. Look at him go. He's counterattacking on the g2 square.
Whoa. Hikaru is not happy anymore. He's going to win h5 with check, but has to settle on f3 to guard checkmate threats. Here comes So with queen f2. Forces rook g1, and now you have queen g3 and h3 coming.
That is brutal. And you know what this reminds me of, Danny? It reminds me of the earlier game when the rook takes before queen a7 check. The Hikaru win, that was what that win was like, except